Today I wanted to talk about Shin Godzilla, the 2016 film directed by Hideaki Anno and Shinji Higuchi. I want to address something first though. This series started as a way for us to look at media that may have been overlooked or underappreciated. Shin Godzilla was not overlooked or underappreciated. It did really well in Japan, both commercially and critically, taking home 7 Japan Academy Prizes, including Picture of the Year and Director of the Year, which was shared between the two directors. Shin Godzilla was later brought to North America by Funimation, but was only shown in around 500 theaters. It is since released on home video, but I can't help but think it hasn't landed as well as it could have in North America. So that's why I've decided to cover Shin Godzilla. It did really well in Japan, but I have a feeling it's being overlooked in North America. Shin Godzilla came as a complete surprise for me. Godzilla had never really been my thing. The original was great, and I'd seen the American ones, but that still left 27 movies that I didn't really care to watch. The other movies sort of veered into the kaiju movie genre, and didn't really do anything that I enjoyed about the first one. But 62 years later, Shin Godzilla did. It returned the focus to Godzilla, singularly, and returned the messaging of the film to something more political or allegorical. The rest of the film also stays political, even when the focus turns away from Godzilla, dryly satirizing the politics and bureaucracy of both Japan and America. Lastly, the film understands a level of technical mastery that allows for its many unconventional components to come together as one. Okay, let's start with the return of Godzilla as allegory. In the 1954 film, Godzilla was a stand-in fictionalization of the atomic bomb and the fears associated with that. Powered by nuclear energy, harnessing enormous destructive potential, and utilizing a weaponized radioactive heat wave called atomic breath. Even his skin was inspired by the very real keloid scars seen on survivors in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The symbolism is unique and pointed, not only at nuclear weapons, but at all things nuclear. Similarly, Shin Godzilla stands in as a fictionalization of nuclear power, or more specifically, the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant and the fears associated with it. The damage he's capable of doing and seeking to do doesn't compare to that of an atom bomb like the original Godzilla, but instead falls more in line with damage done in the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster that took place on March 11th, 2011. The film also doesn't involve any other large monsters. This isn't a monster battling film, it's a film with a thesis. Anything separate from that thesis isn't included in the film, and in that way, the symbolism becomes much, much stronger. The return to focus on Godzilla compared to his previous outings is also a refreshing turn for me, because more than anything, it confirms the unique symbolism described in the original Godzilla, that Godzilla himself is a walking nuclear disaster. When the focus does turn away from Godzilla, the film stays political. It doesn't pull any punches in criticizing the bureaucracy and failings of the Japanese government, specifically in response to Godzilla. This, of course, clearly mirroring the failures of the Japanese government in the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster. The protagonist, Rando Yaguchi, as played by Hiroki Hasegawa, is a deputy chief cabinet secretary. He's young, has a place in government due to family connections, and simply deals with what's in front of him instead of bogging himself down with the accepted practices and politics of government. When the situation leaves the control of pre-existing government entities, Rando takes initiative and forms a group of non-governmental rebels and nerds to help solve the problem. This mirroring the real-life Seiki Soromato, who formed an impromptu advisory group when many leaders in the Prime Minister's office failed to realize what resources were available to them. And that's what makes Rando such an effective hero in contrast to the government. When he doesn't know, he asks. The facts come first, and he's open to whatever may present itself. Rank, ego, and bureaucracy never come into play. He only cares about doing what's right and attending to the crisis. Rando and his group of rebels aren't the only mirror to real life, though. Without going into spoilers too much, there is also a strong emphasis put on the relationship between Japan and America, and a pretty striking fictionalization of the Fukushima 50. a group of workers who risked life, limb, and exposure to radiation in order to stall the effects of the disaster. But the many components of the movie would have a hard time coming together if it weren't for the level of technical mastery the cast and crew were able to achieve. The overall direction, writing, cinematography, editing, music, performances, art and set piece design, action directing, and even the special effects stand out as something special. And it's kind of hard to explain why without just showing you the entire movie, but I think it comes down to the way the different aspects of the film come together as a whole. The first half of the film exemplifies this. It takes very little time for the film to set up and sink its hooks. By the time Godzilla is first spotted, dialogue and exposition have already been committed to a breakneck speed. Boardroom meetings, press conferences, scientific explanations, it really is a deluge of information, but it's easy to absorb because of the way it's fed to us. If it was written worse, it wouldn't work. If it was edited worse, it wouldn't work. If the performances were worse, it wouldn't work. And then Godzilla really starts causing damage. The pace quickens even still, mixing fast-paced dialogue with Godzilla's unrelenting destruction. The film commits quite a bit of time to Godzilla, and the time it commits is beautifully shot, paced, edited, and scored. They walk a fine line between hard-to-watch chaos and complete harmony, and I can confidently say that they nearly always stay on the side of harmony. There are so many departments that worked on so many aspects of the film, and it's really kind of amazing to see them all come together as a whole, to the benefit of the film. Shin Godzilla did what I always hoped a Godzilla sequel would do. It not only compares to the original in many ways, but it also sort of eclipses the original for me. It's bigger and better, but it doesn't manage that by throwing away what made the original great. It does it by building on the ideas set up in the 1954 film. It does it by returning the focus to Godzilla and making his presence uniquely political. It does it by returning political action to the rest of the film, even if it is satirizing it in the process. And it does it by being a fantastically crafted movie, harmonious in almost every aspect of filmmaking. If any of this sounded interesting to you, or if you're a fan of Godzilla's other outings, you should definitely check out Shin Godzilla. Sadly, it feels like it's being slept on in North America, but it shouldn't be overlooked. It does things I didn't even know I wanted a film to do, and it does them frighteningly well. In that way, I can't recommend Shin Godzilla enough.